That's right. If you recall, the lawsuit claims that 51 people should not have voted in the race for City Council District 2 because they registered to vote with an address they did not live in. The subsequent outcome, Daisy Campos-Rodriguez winning by just 6 votes. Fast forward to Wednesday, and 4 of those 51 people did not show up to a required hearing to answer questions under oath on their residency status. Signed by visiting Judge Susan Reed, witnesses Stacy Navarro, Jessely Fuentes, Daisy Ramos, and Edgar Campos will have to appear at a new hearing to determine why they refused to show up to testify on their residence listed in the November 2022 general election. In the 8-page court document, each individual is shown to have either a familial or friend relationship with Daisy Campos-Rodriguez. In fact, documents say that 2 of them, Stacy Navarro and Jessely Fuentes, are employees of Webb County working in the Office of Justice of the Peace, Bobby Quintana. Exhibits produced even showing pictures of both Navarro and Fuentes as campaign supporters or volunteers for Campos-Rodriguez. Documents also showing Fuentes signing the subpoena and acknowledging receipt of it, while Navarro refused to sign hers, saying she had no intentions of showing up. Meanwhile, documents also show that Daisy Ramos and Edgar Campos are employed by the city of Laredo, working in the Community Development Office. Exhibits showing both did sign the subpoena order. Court documents describe Edgar Campos as a cousin to Daisy Campos-Rodriguez, living at the time with Daisy Ramos. Now, if they had shown up to their depositions, the subpoena required them to bring with them several documents showing proof of their residency during the time of the election. Some of these include a driver's license, a rental or lease agreement of their election day residence, the change of address form filed with the post office, even bank statements and school documents showing the address change. But by not showing up to testify and producing these documents, Judge Reed will now decide whether their failure will lead to a fine or even land them inside of the Webb County Jail. That hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, January the 17th at 8 o'clock. And for KGNS News, I'm Mindy Caso.
Meanwhile, a hearing held today in the ongoing lawsuit of the District 2 City Council race was nothing short of fireworks. Before visiting Judge Susan Reed, attorneys representing both sides arguing what actions to take against witnesses who refuse to testify and how to move forward in getting a true vote count after the most recent recount showed a discrepancy in the number of ballots. Our very own KGNS News anchor, Mindy Caso, was tuned into the virtual hearing and shares with us the details.
Yoselin, from city to county employees, lots of people were called to testify in today's hearing before a judge that didn't take too kindly to people who ignore court orders.
Well, I'll tell you what, the court doesn't like it when people don't show up, and that doesn't like it when they, don't take a subpoena seriously. They can always answer a question and say, I don't have these records, or I don't have these records. And I'm liable to, stick somebody in jail. I've done that all my life, so it's no sweat off my back.
Strong words from visiting Judge Susan Reed telling attorneys in Tuesday's hearing it doesn't look good for those witnesses who refuse to show up and testify under oath and produce documents proving their true residency on Election Day.
And it sounds like she ignored it as opposed to even looking to see if she had them. That's the issue. I'm just giving you a heads up about how it appears to me.
Evidence presented shows 4 witnesses, 2 who work for the city's Community Development Office and 2 who work for Justice of the Peace, Bobby Quintana, showed up for work the very day they were supposed to appear for their court date.
At the time of the service, did you tell them that they needed to appear?
No, I just told them they needed to tell the truth. That's what I told them.
And did that mean that they needed to come and appear and tell the truth?
If it's saying to say the truth, that means they need to be there.
And they weren't the only ones. Another witness, Daisy Campos, also didn't show up, telling the server she had no intentions of showing up. And yet another witness who did show arrived with no documents and unable to answer what her current address was or even where her kids go to school.
She brought 0 documents to tend to prove that she resided in District 2 during the relevant time frame. And she did not bring any utility bills that she paid in the relevant time frame. In fact, Your Honor, this witness incredibly did not know anything, including her current residence address, but her memory was very good that she resided in District 2 on Election Day.
In response, the attorney for Daisy Campos-Rodriguez says a recent move is the reason behind the lack of knowledge.
She said she had moved to a different address recently, and she didn't know that address. So I don't want the court to get the impression that she said she didn't live at the District 2 address. She said she had moved recently and she doesn't know the address to where she's at now.
Bali also saying attorneys for Rangel didn't give witnesses ample time to gather documents he said are typically not kept on hand, in which Rangel's attorney emphatically denies.
I did. I know my duties. I am a professional attorney. I do extend professional courtesies, and I did provide a copy of my motion to her lawyer and a copy of the Zoom hearing, a Zoom notice.
Judge Susan Reed has given all 6 witnesses one last chance to testify under oath and produce the required documents to defend their vote in District 2. That last chance hearing scheduled for January the 20th, with the penalty for not showing up, a stiff fine, or even jail time. For KGNS News, I'm Mindy Caso.
Meanwhile, a judge names Ricardo Rangel as the winner of the District 2 City Council race. This after 2 days of testimony from several witnesses who were called to explain why they voted in a district that evidence showed they did not live in. KGNS News anchor Mindy Caso has been following the case. She shares what it all came down to.
Yoselin, after multiple subpoenas, depositions, and hearings, plus 2 days of witness testimony at trial, it took visiting Judge Susan Reed less than 20 minutes to hand down her ruling.
I'm going to find that there were 11 illegally cast votes for Daisy Campos-Rodriguez. So that would lead us to the conclusion that the winner of election night was the contestant, Ricardo Rangel.
And with that, Ricardo Rangel has been named the winner of the race by 5 votes. He tells us he knew all along something wasn't right.
And it was something that it impacted me a lot. But at the same time, I was like, okay, the margin is 6 votes. Let me see what's going on. So I went back, and I went back the following day and see, what happened. Like by anything, like where did we go wrong? And that's where we saw the problems that we saw.
So what was it about those 11 votes that swayed the judge? Well, the attorney for the plaintiff, Valdemar Garcia, saying in Texas, you can't use an address to vote that is not your permanent home.
And the statute says your residence means your home, the place that you inhabit, not a place that you're at temporarily. So in this case where we had people who had homestead declarations, for example, outside of District 2, yet they claimed they lived and they had their residency in District 2, that wasn't allowed.
But it's not over yet. An appeal has already been filed by Campos-Rodriguez with the 4th Court of Appeals in San Antonio, and that allows her to remain on City Council for now. The city attorney telling us in a statement, everything stays in place until the Court of Appeals makes the final ruling. As for the appeal, Rangel's attorneys asked the judge to consider accelerating the appeal process, something Campos-Rodriguez's attorney spoke against, saying that decision should be left up to the appellate court. However, Judge Reed did grant the acceleration, saying District 2 residents need a voice on City Council and therefore deserve a quick resolution. So with that, a final decision could be handed down by the 4th Court of Appeals within 2 months. And for KGNS News, I'm Mindy Caso.
The judge also ruled Daisy Campos-Rodriguez would be responsible for paying all costs associated with the appeal. Just hours ago, Campos-Rodriguez released a statement in part saying, quote, I did nothing inappropriate to influence the outcome of my election other than to run a strong grassroots campaign without the undue influence of political machines. She goes on to say, quote, I remain optimistic that justice and I will ultimately prevail. Until then, I will continue to diligently serve the best interests of all of the constituents of District 2, as well as the city of Laredo, end quote. Winner of the District 2 race now in the hands of the 4th Court of Appeals. Visiting Judge Susan Reed has released her official findings. It's the written document from the trial that outlines the rationale used in determining the ruling. Our Mindy Caso joins us now with some new information found in the document. Mindy.
Well, this is the document that Judge Reed has filed with the Fourth Court of Appeals. It explains to the appellate judges the reasons she used to determine why she threw out votes that she deemed illegal, which on the day of her ruling numbered 11, but now that number has changed. Citing a need to review testimony and case law after closing arguments, Judge Susan Reed said the number of illegal votes may change. Well, they have, now going from 11 to 15. In the document to the Fourth Court of Appeals, Judge Reed names each one of those 15 voters and the circumstance surrounding how they came to vote in District 2. Well, some of the circumstances include living temporarily with parents or moving out of a previous home, but never filling out a change of address form with the elections office, just to name a few. She then outlines how those situations break the state's new Election Integrity Protection Act, passed in 2021, that makes it illegal for anyone to change their address to vote for a person in an election unless they actually live there. The law also says a person cannot designate a previous residence as a home. Well, according to the judge's findings, each of the 15 illegal votes were cast for Daisy Campos-Rodriguez, as witnesses admitted under oath on the witness stand. And for KGNS News, I'm Mindy Caso.
And if you would like to read the judge's findings, which include the names of those who voted and why the judge said their vote was illegal, you can go to our website, kgns.tv, and click on the story.